Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back to today's Explainer, where we are breaking down the absolute heart-pounding climax of the Squashlight Saga. Specifically, we're zeroing in on the incredible events of chapters 17 and 18. And hey, we're skipping the usual pleasantries today because we really just need to jump right into the center of the action. We've got angry mobs, we've got ancient magic, and we have the terrifying birth of a literal legend. I mean, just imagine it. You're standing there in the freezing cold of a hamlet square at dawn, watching three women about to swing from the gallows for a crime that completely defies all logic. The tension is incredibly high. So let's look at exactly how this supernatural collision unfolds. Listen to this chilling little rhyme. Did they bewitch the boy, never to come back? Is it the pressure causing them to crack? I foresee a new visitor, mayhaps Stingy Jack. Now, you might think this was coming from some terrified onlooker in the crowd, right? But no, this is coming directly from our three witches, Old Lady King, Toshia, and Carol Bell. And they're reciting this as they stand on the gallows with nooses quite literally around their necks. They aren't crying, they're not begging for their lives. Instead, they're gleefully taunting a totally frightened mob with this eerie, prophetic poetry. It just perfectly hooks us right into the terrifying tension of the scene. To really understand the gravity here, we've got to set the stage. Picture it. It's the darkest hour, just before dawn in this charcoal gray hamlet square. The architecture of the town is so imposing that it completely blocks out any hint of the rising sun. So the only illumination you have comes from these towering torches burning fiercely against the pitch-black morning. And gathered between these torches? Well, it's a highly confused, incredibly anxious mob of townspeople. They've dragged themselves out of bed in the bitter cold, surrounding these newly built gallows, and they're expecting a somber, orderly execution. But man, what they're getting is something else entirely. And this brilliantly illustrates the bizarre juxtaposition playing out in the square. On one side, you've got the terrified townspeople and a completely flummoxed Judge Not. They're shivering in the cold, desperately trying to make any sense of the situation. And on the other side, the three cackling witches. And they aren't just laughing, they're physically mocking the entire ordeal. Out of nowhere, they jump into the air, pull their bodies as straight as newly milled boards, click their 6 feet together right in the center, and just gaze out at the crowd with these maniacal grins. It is deeply unnatural behavior, and it literally sends a collective shiver down the spine of everyone watching. So naturally, this bizarre behavior triggers a massive wave of hesitation among the mob. It brings up a flurry of unanswered questions. The townspeople just start murmuring to each other, like, are we absolutely sure these women did it? Is Watt Woghalter, the boy in question, actually dead? Has anyone even seen his father? The uncertainty in the air is just palpable. And then, Judge Not does something totally unprecedented. Instead of doing his actual job and passing down a verdict, he basically washes his hands of the whole shebang. He gives the power of the verdict directly to the people. Why? Because even he is completely overwhelmed by the strangeness unfolding right in front of him. Right as the crowd is trying to process all this, the environment violently reacts. Let's walk through this rapid, supernatural anomaly, because it happens fast. Minute 1, boom. Every single torch in the square instantly dies. Pitch black darkness. Minute 2, a towering, terrifying figure steps onto the gallows and places an unusually orange pumpkin on the ground. Minute 3, this figure slowly swivels to face the mob, steps forward, and effortlessly parts the completely paralyzed crowd. Minute 4, the figure vanishes into the dawn, leaving total silence in his wake. I mean, no one breathes, no one moves. They have literally just been visited by a legend. Now, what's really interesting here is the actual identity of this figure. It's Stingy Jack. He's this legendary bog wanderer, described as being as thin as a wheat chaff, with a horrifying dark gray pallor. His eyes are dark, his mouth is hanging open, and cold breath just pours out of him. But the absolutely crucial detail here is what he carries. Usually, Jack famously holds a giant gray turnip carved by the devil himself, right? And it's illuminated from within by the red fires of Hades. That's his signature. Yet on this particular night, he doesn't leave his turnip on the gallows. He leaves behind an unusually bright orange pumpkin. It's a massive contrast, and it clearly signals a major shift in the supernatural hierarchy. As we officially transition into Chapter 18 of the story, the torches slowly begin to rise and flicker back to life, but their flames are almost entirely overshadowed because the absolute brightest light in the entire Hamlet Square is now coming from that unusually orange pumpkin, sitting right there in the dead center of the gallows. It literally commands the space. The crowd is slowly shaking off the paralysis of Stingy Jack's visit, and they're giving this pumpkin a massive, wide berth. But they just can't look away, because this isn't just a vegetable anymore. It is the new supernatural vessel for the soul of Wat Waghalter. Let's see how this builds, because the magic starts happening right in front of the mesmerized school children, who have somehow crept up to the front of the crowd. Step 1. Right before their very eyes, 2 glowing eyes appear directly on the thick rind of the pumpkin. Step 2. A distinct triangular nose slowly fades into view. Step 3. A mouth, complete with squarish teeth, forms and lights up. The pumpkin is actively morphing into a face. The jack-o'-lantern is coming alive in real time, and the kids immediately recognize the familiar, mischievous features of their missing classmate, Wat. Now, amidst all of this creeping terror, we actually get a brilliant moment of bizarre levity from up on the gallows. The 3 witches have been huddled together, whispering furiously among themselves, completely ignoring the supernatural miracle happening right at their feet. But as the crowd finally realizes the pumpkin is Wat, Old Lady King briefly breaks out of her huddle, pops her head up, and shouts to the crowd, and we all know how much trouble that one can cause. It's just incredibly dark humor. Even as a magical pumpkin, Wat is still recognized by his teacher and the whole town as an absolute troublemaker. Her friends look at her in total disbelief. She just shrugs and goes right back into the huddle. But this confirmation sets off a total chain reaction of panicked, completely absurd mob mentality. Let's break down this deeply flawed verdict. First, they acknowledge it's a magic pumpkin, so okay, it definitely must be the boy. Second, because magic is present, the women must be guilty of using the dark arts to put him in there. They completely ignore the fact that just because he's a vegetable doesn't mean they actually killed him. But the absolute kicker, the final nail in the coffin, is some voice in the crowd yelling out that since they all got up so early, they'd hate to see the gallows go to waste. It's a truly chilling reminder of how quickly and casually logic just disintegrates in a mob. So the decision is made. A chant erupts in the square. Hang 'em, hang 'em. And as this dark, murderous intent washes over the crowd, something genuinely tragic happens. The bright, supernatural light emanating from the jack-o'-lantern actually begins to physically fade. The tension is just sickening here. Judge Nott, looking incredibly dejected and disappointed in his townspeople, just closes his eyes and gives a silent nod. The constables step forward, they pull the 3 women apart, breaking their little huddled circle, and violently tighten the ropes around their necks, pulling out all the slack. So the crucial point is this final explosive moment. Judge Nott asks the women if they have any final words. The 3 reluctant witches look at each other one last time. They nod slowly. Then they turn their attention directly to the hostile crowd. And in absolute unison, utilizing whatever power they have left, they shout at the very top of their lungs, E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. It is a bizarre, united, final spell, a desperate, powerful cry into the void right before the execution can take place. And the immediate aftermath? Staggering. The instant those words leave their lips, every single torch in the square dies again. Complete, suffocating darkness falls over the hamlet. And out of that pitch-black darkness, a single child screams. Which brings us to the ultimate question for this explainer. What happens when blind mob justice collides head-on with ancient, unpredictable magic? And more importantly, as the darkness sets in, what exactly did that final, desperate spell truly unleash upon the town? Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you for diving into this with me. Keep wondering, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.